Hey, it's Bret Michaels of The Poison and TV's Rock of Love back with you on VH1's 100 Greatest Hard Rock Songs. This is the music I live for. A little while ago on VH1.com, we asked you guys to vote for the best hard rock tunes of all time, and you did it. And now we're here to give you the results. We're down to the final 40, and at number 40, one of my personal favorites, if you say so myself.
When Poison burst onto the Sunset Strip in the mid-'80s, they took pop metal, partying, and primping up a whole lot of notches. And nothing proved that more than 1986's Talk Dirty to Me.
Talk Dirty to Me is one of the greatest hard rock songs ever. Poison said, we're going to have more hair, more makeup, more glitter than any other band in history. It's the most fun you can have with your friends. The best part of the song is actually when Bret Michaels calls to CeCe DeVille and says, CeCe, pick up that guitar and talk to me.
This is the Don Rickles on steroids and rock and roll.
Poison's popularity faded in the early 90s, but frontman Bret Michaels resurfaced in 2007 as the star of VH1's Rock of Love.
The reason we're all here, right, to find someone for me that I can love.
I know Bret does like when people talk dirty to him. I definitely did that. And he definitely loved it.
These days, after more than 25 years together, Poison still evokes that 80s vibe with Talk Dirty to Me.
That's a long career, so you got to give it up for Poison.
From every car window, transistor radio, and bowling alley in America came 1976's More Than a Feeling, the epic debut single from Boston.
More Than a Feeling is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's absolutely beautiful. It's fantastic.
That song makes you want to roll down the window, put your face out like a dog. You just feel the wind. I get all feel goody.
Back in my day, many Boston albums were sold on 8-track tape and found themselves inside Trans Ams in the parking lot of the high school I went to. So More Than a Feeling became ingrained in my psyche.
I couldn't believe the range of Brad Delp.
He does that one note and it goes up, and I was like, how high can you go?
It's put together in a very symphonic way. Every time you listen to it, you hear something new in the production. It's not a simple jam.
I always thought all those overlaid guitars was a very interesting sonic idea.
After the massive debut, Boston released just 4 more albums over the next 3 decades. Then in 2007, frontman Brad Delp tragically committed suicide, leaving the band without its voice. But the group pressed on with 2 singers sharing vocal duties, one Michael Sweet of Stryper and one Tommy DiCarlo of the Home Depot.
Can we help you with anything? Tom Schultz found this guy who sounded like the great Brad Delp and found him because he put up videos on his MySpace page of him singing Boston songs. Oh, great. I love that. That's the total life, way to do it now.
If you've ever doubted Queen's capacity to rock, you've obviously never heard 1974's Stone Cold Crazy.
Stone Cold Crazy was one of the hardest rocking Queen songs they ever wrote. This particular song is a side of Queen that you don't see too often. I just didn't care. I did whatever I wanted to do. It's just this really aggressive, very fast rock and roll to me.
That song is a smooth, heavy metal song.
Stone Cold Crazy had a kind of a rock garage band energy to it, and they actually really pulled it off.
When you talk about rock music in general, you have to set Queen aside. Freddie Mercury was such a towering genius that he was superhuman.
Freddie Mercury is probably the greatest singer that ever lived.
Sadly, Freddie lost his battle with AIDS in 1991. Bassist John Deacon retired soon after, but Brian May and Roger Taylor continue as Queen with ex-Bad Company frontman Paul Rodgers, who joined in 2005. In 2008, they released Queen's first new album in 13 years. Still, the original Queen lives on as one of the greatest groups ever.
Queen has stood the test of time, obviously, because great songwriters, an amazing sound, great live show back in their heyday. Really amazing band.
They just basically believed in themselves and they funded what they did and have left this tremendous legacy.
Don't go crazy, you know. My generation. Back in '65, a young British quartet dropped a neat little ditty about some rebellious kids. The band The Who, the song My Generation, the rest, history.
I hope I die before I get old. That statement lives forever in rock and roll.
Just sounded so modern, and you got the stuttering vocal.
We all supposed to depict somebody who was meditated.
Best rock and roll song ever written. It's just as potent to me now, full of juice, as it was when I first heard it. There was a certain sneer to it that a lot of these other bands didn't have. And Pete Townsend was just a great songwriter.
Pete Townsend was the first punk rocker. His stage antics and how insane he was and his physicality on stage. I mean, they were such a physical band.
The first band to smash up their equipment, which I thought was excellent.
My Generation was only the beginning. The band dropped dozens of classic singles after that. Today, The Who are down to 2, and though Daltrey and Townsend are both in their mid-60s, they're not ready to pack it in. They came back with their first new album in 24 years in 2006.
They're still touring, and he's up there just wailing away. You make a list of bands that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for The Who. I mean, just a legend, truly a legend.
Hey, not only are you going to see The Who in this countdown, but you're also going to see more of the most kick-ass songs ever. Here's a preview.
Coming up, Van Halen.
This is VH1's 100 Greatest Hard Rock Songs, and you may be asking yourself, so, where's the Van Halen? Sit down, Waldo, because here's Van Halen's first entry on the countdown.
Between mind-bending jungle beat, brain liquefying guitar riffs, and one smoking video, Van Halen's Hot for Teacher was every preteen boy's dream come true.
When you're a kid and you can't find any porn, you got Hot for Teacher video. It had hot rods, girls in bikinis, and children in a school set. I mean, that is good, clean, all-American fun.
Hot for Teacher helped Van Halen sell over 10 million copies of their album 1984, yet just months after its release, singer David Lee Roth ditched the group.
A lot of stories about first Edward says, we fired him. And then 2 weeks later we read, Dave split to go be a movie star. Dave left because of his own giant ego. And I'm here to tell you that it's a lot of BS.
Sammy Hagar took over as frontman until 1996, when he was briefly replaced by Extreme's Gary Cherone. Then in 2007, after years of rumors, Dave came back for a tour. Today, the band's said to be working on new music, but like all things Van Halen, that's up in the air. And in the meantime, Hot for Teacher will have to tide fans over.
It was just Van Halen at one of their peaks, and Hot for Teacher, that was just a great, great hard rock song.
When shock rock icon Alice Cooper released School's Out in 1972, a legion of restless school kids finally had their summer anthem.
School's Out by Alice Cooper. What a powerful song.
the day that school literally went out, you cranked that and just drove out of your parking lot into Never Never Land.
The two happiest moments of the year for a kid is Christmas morning and the last 3 minutes before summer vacation. As soon as that bell rings, the class goes crazy. I said, that's what we want in that record.
Alice Cooper's whole demonic horror movie, I think, was very attractive to young tearaways like myself.
We were always theatrical before any theatrics ever happened. Back then when you did the guillotine and Alice's head came off and it squirted into the third row and you were covered in blood, people were like outraged at that.
Best stinking show on the planet. There is nobody like Alice, even still to this day.
40 years into his career, Alice is busier than ever. He hosts a radio show, Nights with Alice Cooper.
A lot of cool tours coming up.
Is an avid golfer, and in 2008 dropped his 25th album. Not too shabby for a 60-something rocker.
I just love doing the show. I don't see any expiration date for Alice. I kind of think that Alice is a character that would go on, sort of like Batman or Dracula or something.
Back in 77, hard rock was mostly a dude thing. Then came the Wilson sisters apart with Barracuda, and all bets were off.
Barracuda, kick-ass. Song from a girl hard rock band.
You know, most girl bands, they didn't really rock. They were cute, fun, but, you know, Ann and Nancy really did rock.
A lot of people at first would see us and they'd be like, you know, you guys are pretty good for girls.
The song was sexy as all hell. When Ann Wilson said, "Ooh, Barracuda," there wasn't a dude out there who didn't get wood.
Ann penned Barracuda after a reporter asked if she and her sister, Nancy, were lovers.
I was talking to some industry guy. He was kind of like, so, Annie, how'd you love her? You and your sister, right? There it was again, a sleazy male vision of two women. And that's where the song came from.
Ooh, Barracuda. In the 80s, Hart traded big riffs for big ballads. More recently, Nancy scored films for hubby Cameron Crowe, and Ann's raised her two adopted children. More than 30 years since their debut, the Wilson sisters still tour as Hart and are still uncompromising. They made news in 2008 when Barracuda was used as Sarah Palin's theme at the Republican convention. Unhappy, the band asked the campaign to lay off their signature song.
They rock, and that song will never die. Do you have the time?
In 1994, Green Day brought snot-nosed attitude and punk pop melodies to rock radio with their hit single Basket Case.
It didn't really sound like anything else at the time. When it came on the radio, it felt fresh to your ears. You'd be like, what is this? Who is this?
This song brought punk back into the mainstream. It sounded like a bunch of kids who were sitting around their basements, said, let's put together a band, and they did.
I think with us, because we have a punk background and stuff, that people already throwing tags on us as punk rock.
Dookie sold more than 10 million copies worldwide, but sales for Green Day's next 3 records dropped off. Then in 2004, they released the landmark American Idiot LP, ensuring their place in rock history. Today, the guys are raising families and working on a follow-up.
There's so much more for us to learn, so much more for us to do next 10, 20 years from now.
Sit tight, people. We've got more music that'll make you want to punch something. Here's a little taste.
Coming up, ladies and gentlemen.
And we are back. This is VH1's 100 Greatest Hard Rock Songs, and right now, you should probably hide any small pets or large game you may have around the house, because it's time for a visit from our Uncle Ted.
When Axeman Ted Nugent unleashed cat scratch fever in 1977, the outbreak of rock was impossible to contain.
Ted Nugent is one of the most awesome guitar players ever in the history of recorded music. Tremendous guitar player.
The song is based on one of the best riffs of all time. You want to screw this riff when you hear it. There actually was a disease that I discovered, that's my wife, found it in an old medical journal called cat scratch fever. What happens when you get scratched by a cat? Cat scratch fever, it's just fit, you know what I mean?
Moving forward, the Motor City Madman split his time between music and his other love, hunting.
I like Ted Nugent because he kills and eats his own food. He's not one of those sissies that goes to the grocery store and buys ground beef.
You don't expect me to get assembly like this. I like pure, natural protein.
He will slaughter a bison with his bare hands and a brick.
Today, Uncle Ted's an outspoken right-winger and guns rights activist and best-selling author. He still tears it up on stage, and you better believe his fans love him for it.
People like energy and attitude, spirit, independence and rugged individualism. And people like to come to my concert just to roast marshmallows on the flames coming out of my ass.
A wicked rundown of sinful crimes. 1976's Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap was ACDC at their most economically evil.
Dirty Deeds, ACDC is one of the greatest bands of all time because they are the kings of simplicity.
They're like a meat and potatoes band. There's no frills, there's no bull.
I loved Bon Scott. I loved his voice and his attitude. He was just so unique.
He sounded like he was having sex while he was singing.
That was the first rock star I ever saw take his shirt off and just stand there like, this is me, man.
Scott made 3 more albums with ACDC, then died of alcohol poisoning in 1980 at the age of 33. Saddened, the band soldiered on with new singer Brian Johnson.
You're in a state of shock, really. You know, try to go on. You've got to keep going.
But to this day, Bon's legacy looms as large as ever.
Bon's spirit still lives on. It is the spirit of that band.
Godspeed, all things ACDC.
If it was 1991 and you were an angry flannel-clad 15-year-old, odds are Pearl Jam's Even Flow was the best thing to happen in all your whole damn life.
Even Flow was just this cool rock song. It kicked ass. It was a new formula. They reinvented the wheel and did it very coolly.
When I listened to that song, I could feel the energy. They obviously tracked most of that live, and you could feel it.
Eddie Vedder threw me for a loop when he came out vocally. It sounded like he was singing backwards. I'm like, what the hell is he saying? I can't understand a word this man is saying. Like Eddie Vedder's just messing with you. It's like, it's a plan of concrete. You're like, I don't know what he's saying, but this is rock.
Nowadays, Ed breaks for solo projects like Guaranteed, his Golden Globe-winning song from Into the Wild, but he always comes back to Pearl Jam. Still vocally anti-industry, they continue to sell out tours and have a 9th album in the works.
They were able to just really do their own thing, yet somehow become so unbelievably massive without ever having to sell out or do anything that they didn't want to do. And I have nothing but respect for those guys.
Rejected by 20-plus record companies, ex-runaway Joan Jett finally released the Fast and Furious Bad Reputation on her own label in 1981. And with that, Rock's Boys Club was put on notice.
Joan Jett's awesome. Joan Jett rocks. No two ways about it. Bad Reputation's a great song.
I met Joan a long time ago with the Runaways, and she's always been straight down the line. She's never compromised, you know. She's always been great.
The first time I heard it when I was a kid, I knew that she was badass. She just lives rock and roll, and it comes out of her pores.
She's so about rock and roll. It's like a lot of people claim to be rock and roll this and rock and roll that, but she's like the genuine artist.
Always the cliche, you know, like, she's pretty good for a chick, but anyone who says that is an idiot. Joan Jett just straight up rocks and always has.
And today, Joan keeps at it. Now in her early 50s, this vegan is constantly on the road and starting her own line of Gibson guitars. Oh, and she still looks damn good, too.
She has been gifted with an amazing face, just an incredibly beautiful face. It stood the test of time. I mean, she looks just as good now as she's ever looked.
A year after Nirvana's demise, drummer Dave Grohl created Foo Fighters. 2 years and 2 albums later came their magnum opus, Everlong.
I thought it was an amazing song, you know, and it's also helped really cement them as their own band. We didn't really think Everlong was any good until everyone else said it was, and it convinced us.
Who would have thought that the drummer in Nirvana would have this much talent?
Dave Grohl steps out in front and turns out to be this amazing songwriter. He's the Phil Collins of the 90s.
Since the Foo's breakout hit, Grohl has racked up side projects and guest spots with everyone from Queens of the Stone Age to Paul McCartney to Lemmy from Motorhead.
Dave's great. Dave's a good guy. He's quite an amazing musician.
Plus, in April of 2006, he became a dad to daughter Violet. But don't worry, he's still with the Foos, who are going strong 6 albums later.
Every time I see them, they blow me away. I think 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they're going to go on to be rock legends and rock gods, in my opinion, and they already are. Hey, everybody, I've got more amazing rock coming your way, like this.
Coming up,
I'm Brett, and right now you're having your spine shattered by VH1's 100 Greatest Hard Rock Songs. I love the music video for this song you guys voted number 27. The best part is when the sex police show. Now, I don't know if you've ever been arrested by sex police, but let's just say it's not quite as bad as you might think. Here's Whitesnake. Check it out.
it was over 6 minutes long, sounded a tad like Zeppelin, and came complete with a Tawny Katane video. Yep, Whitesnake couldn't go wrong with 1987's Still of the 90s.
David Coverdale's going to have hot sex with a lady, but it's this epic sex because it's 6.5 minutes long.
That was great. It's one of those songs that had sex appeal, and the dudes could like it, and the girls could like it.
It's a great song, but it's a great video. It worked really well. It was a kind of a predator watching her from inside before I was arrested by the sex police and driven off into the distance, never to be heard of again.
The thing that bugs me about people's perception of Whitesnake is that they always talk about, you know, their hair.
It's just such a bore. Do some research. I've sold over 100 million records, and I'm not sure it's all related to my hair.
The fact is, David Coverdale is one of the greatest blues hard rock singers that ever walked the face of the earth.
Whitesnake dropped a bucket load of hit singles in the late 80s, but by 91, Coverdale wanted out.
It got to a point where every hotel I checked in, MTV was on, and Tony's rolling across the hood of my car. It was like out of control, and I took a break and worked with Jimmy Page for a couple of years, which was a breath of fresh air.
The break ended in 2002 when Coverdale reassembled the band for their silver anniversary. Today, when David's not in the studio or on the road, the new U.S. citizen chills with his family at home in Lake Tahoe.
The most difficult journey for me is leaving home, and the most rewarding is coming back here. The first thing I do is drive Jazz to school and assume the mantle of Cindy's husband. And I balance, which was always missing from my life for so many years. The bottom line, boys and girls, balance.
A 9-minute tribute to the late Allman Brothers guitarist Duane Allman, Leonard Skinner's epic Freebird first took flight in 1973 and took over arenas forever.
It's bizarre that every single rock show you go to, some always going to scream Freebird. Play Freebird! Freebird! It's the slow intro that begs the light. Freebird! If I leave,
Leonard Skinner with that song brought the Southern rock thing global.
It is a love ballad, a love ballad. And then at the end, we just take off soaring like a bird.
After the tragic deaths of frontman Ronnie Van Zant and Stephen Cassie Gaines in a 1977 plane crash, Skinner took a decade-long break. They regrouped in 1987 with Ronnie's brother Johnny on vocals, and Free Bird became a requiem of sorts. Over the years, the group survived lineup changes and the deaths of 2 more original band members. In 2008, Skinner jammed with Kid Rock on the Rock and Rebels tour. And more than 35 years after its release, Freebird is still jamming too.
As long as there's a dude to shout out Freebird at a concert, we will be hearing Leonard Skinner's Freebird. It's just never going away.
Armed with leather jackets and a slew of 2-minute 3-chord anthems, the Ramones kicked off 20-plus years of New York City punk with 1976's Blitzkrieg Bop.
Ramones kicked ass. 90 seconds, short bursts. They really kicked ass.
I went to sing, and there was like 19 songs in like 35 minutes.
First heard Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones, David Bowie. I said, have you heard just the Ramones? Listen, boy, I thought, gee, is that singer good or what?
This is one of those bands that launched many, many other bands.
You can drag any member of Motley Crue and put them in this chair and say Ramones, and they'll say the same thing. They were an influence to us.
We stripped it down, put the essence back, the spirit and the guts and the excitement and the fun. And
We were sitting around.
we gave it a good kick in the ass.
Those are probably some of the most misunderstood lyrics in music. I thought they were saying, let's drink pop. No, they're saying, Blitzkrieg Bop. Oh, I'm stupid.
3 of the 4 original Ramones have passed away. Dee Dee of a heroin overdose and Johnny and Joey of cancer. Today you can see tributes to the guys all over, but the band's greatest legacy remains their music.
Ramones is a band I'll be playing until the day I die. When I listen to the Ramones, some of their music, I get wet around the eyes because it really moves me.
Plugging into the staggering 17 minutes, Iron Butterfly's 1968 classic Inagata de Vida was one of acid rock's greatest and longest trips.
Inagata de Vida. Classic. What I believe the singer was trying to say was in the Garden of Eden. The legend is he was too high when he was writing it. Inagata de Vida. Hey, well, that's a hook. And so it became Inagata de Vida.
Inagata de Vida was just one of the greatest rock and roll riffs.
It's one of those jams that seemingly goes on forever.
It was like an age in rock era where you could have a 17-minute song on a whole side of an album. And the record labels are like, all right, man, let's do it. You brought that music into any A&R department of any label now and said, here's a single. They'd be like, security?
40 years later, Iron Butterfly carries on, though frontman Doug Engel retired in 1999, leaving Charlie Marinkovich to handle the vocals as the band cruises the classic rock circuit.
Well, they've been in it for the long haul. They're still going and 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 going, just like the song in the Got It.
You know what they say. You go hard, you go home. And we're going even harder after the break as we race toward the 20 greatest hard rock songs ever.
Coming up, Ozzy keeps riding the...
Yeah, that's right. Brett's got your 100 greatest hard rock songs. And up next, we've got Ozzy's very first solo smash. Hey, if you don't know this opening riff by now, then you have my sympathies.
After getting the boot from Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne teamed with former Quiet Riot axeman Randy Rhoads for 1980's Crazy Train, a metal masterpiece for the ages.
Such a great
Yeah. It's like Ozzy's first record after Sabbath. It's just a really great song. I don't remember exactly when we started to do Crazy, but we used to go to the bar, have a few drinks, just jam and mess around, you know. I'm glad we did.
From Randy Rhoads, what he's about. That's what all started. Ozzy and Randy and wrapped up. That's awesome.
It took rock and roll to a whole nother level. Ozzy and Randy played on for one more record before Rhoads died in a plane crash in 1982. Devastated by the loss of his friend, Ozzy took a short break from music.
I thought, this is ridiculous. You know, I was like, my father died, then I got fired from Black Sabbath. Then my ex-wife threw me out. And then Randy got killed. It was crazy days.
Happily, Ozzy rebounded in spades. He went on to release 9 solo albums, assemble Ozfest, raise a family with wife Sharon, and star in his own MTV reality show, which scored him a slew of new fans. Now, pushing 60, he's riding the Crazy Train as far as it'll take him.
I still play that to this day on my stage show, and it's still as good today as it ever was. There's something to be said about a good song. That was a great song.
James Marshall Hendrix did things with his guitar that most musicians only dream about. And Jimmy got started changing hard rock history with his 1966 debut single, Hey Joe. Hey Joe.
The first record I heard by Jimi Hendrix was Hey Joe. And I went to school the next day, and the whole world seemed to be buzzing about Jimi Hendrix.
It was just so unique sounding. It was a more inventive and fluid rock.
I had the honor of seeing him. I mean, it was like unbelievable.
When I saw Hendrix, I thought the songs, the lyrics, the performance, he just had it all.
Hendrix is a showman. Not just in the sounds he got out of the guitar, but what he could do to that guitar physically.
He was the first one to use it as a raw instrument like that, and as an expression of art. He was the first person I've heard that it was coming out of every pore of his body.
Hendrix died in 1970 at just 27 years old. Today, nearly 40 years after revolutionizing rock guitar, his legacy is alive and well.
The great part about Jimi Hendrix is what he achieved in such a little amount of time at such an age.
He was magic. You will not see his life again.
Folks, we are getting pretty damn close to the 20 greatest hard rock songs of all time. So do yourself a favor and stay right where you're at.
Coming up, a Led Zeppelin standard that's truly out of this world.
I mean, that's the coolest riff ever written by a rock band.
Next on VH1's 100 Greatest Hard Rock Songs.
Hey, this is Brett Michaels, and if you love hard rock as much as I know you do, you should pick up my latest solo CD, Rock My World. I guarantee it'll rock your world too.
Dinner's ready.
In the early 70s, a kid from the Bronx helped form an iconic band, the Kid Ace Frehley. the band Kiss. And the rest is history. This is his story. No Regrets. The autobiography of Ace Frehley. Available now wherever books are sold.
If you're looking for the 100 greatest hard rock songs ever, look no further. We're up to number 21, and it's a monster. In fact, I even own the original Swan Song t-shirt. One of the greatest bands ever? Just check this out.
With mystical lyrics inspired by a Robert Plant voyage to Morocco, 1975's Cashmere is just another reason Led Zeppelin was the best thing to ever happen to hard rock.
Led Zeppelin are the godfathers of rock and roll.
Not being a fan of Led Zeppelin is kind of like not being normal. And Cashmere is one of the greatest Led Zeppelin songs of all time.
It's an epic song with a great combination of rock and Middle Eastern influences in it. It transports you into another time and space. It's hypnotic rock at its finest.
You hear that riff, ja-na-na, ja-na-na, and you're like, wow, that could be written by Beethoven. I mean, that's the coolest riff ever written by a rock band.
Just 5 years after Cashmere, drummer John Bonham died, and Led Zeppelin called it quits in his honor.
When John moved on,
Today, John Paul Jones focuses on production work, while Page spends most of his time performing with other artists. Robert Plant has released several solo albums, including a 2007 duet record with Alison Krauss. But Zepp's legend remains intact. Come on, no one even comes close.
They showed that they could play as heavy as anybody and still go out and play other things and incorporate a lot of different sounds, but still have it come out sounding like rock. It's just a fantastic band.
Well, that's it for another hour of VH1's 100 greatest hard rock songs. Stick around. The top 20, yes, that's right. The top 20 are right around the corner.